Welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Pho, founder and editor of KevinMD. Today on the show, we have Kelly Lisciandro. She is an internal medicine physician, and she wrote the KevinMD article, Why Do I Laugh During a Pandemic? Kelly, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me today.
We'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, so I am an internist in primary care in Rochester, New York. I started my career late, or started medical school late. I was 29 years old. I ended up getting my master's degree when I did not get accepted into medical school my first round of applications. I ended up in a lab. I was at the University of Buffalo Roswell Park Division with a master's degree in natural and biomedical sciences, and I found that I really did not like the lab, that I was going along the wrong path, and that I really wanted to be a physician. I wanted to be in primary care. I wanted to have a relationship with patients where I could care for them, but also grow with them. And that was always my passion. So I applied to medical school during my second year of grad school, and I included osteopathic schools at that time. I hadn't the first time I applied, but now I was 28 years old and was looking at being a non-traditional student, that I was older and I had had some life experience. I got my master's degree. I'd done other things first. So osteopathic medicine, although I loved the philosophy, I really thought that that was probably my best bet. So while I was defending my thesis, I was accepted to New York College of Osteopathic Medicine in Old Westbury. I was really excited. It was exactly what I had set out to do. So I was 29 and going to medical school. I spent 2 years in Long Island doing my coursework, which I loved. I loved the area. I loved osteopathic medicine. I loved osteopathic manipulation. I thought that it was just incredible. And if you had that experience with it, knowing that it works. But my love was back in Western New York. I'm from a small town in Western New York. I knew I wanted to come back, and osteopathic medicine is not that prevalent here,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly not many people do osteopathic manipulation. So my third year of medical school, I ended up in Auburn, New York, at Auburn Memorial Hospital, with the goal of being in a rural track,
Mm-hmm.
because I was from a small town, and the idea was that if I liked rural medicine, that I would go back to my hometown and practice medicine there. I found that I didn't like it that I was in a town without a full service hospital. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like medicine just it wasn't right for me. So my fourth year, I ended up in Rochester a lot, Buffalo, Silver Creek. I think I did about 4 months of rotations at Rochester General, and I fell in love with the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was where I wanted to be. I had ties to the area, and it was my place. It was my place. I was comfortable. So I matched with University of Rochester internal medicine and primary care program in 2000. I was the last of the class. The majority of my time was spent at Rochester General. I did a few months at Strong Memorial Hospital, and I think I did 1 month at Genesee Hospital, which is closed that year in 2001. It closed. I knew that I wanted to be where I was. I knew that it was the right place for me. I was in a primary care program, so the goal was that I would stay in this area and I would
Mm-hmm.
practice here. So I was assigned to a private internist, who I spent 3 years with, doing all my clinic. I was never in one of the clinics with the hospital. I was with him,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a tremendous amount from him. And I learned the art of primary care, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. I loved it. I knew it was the right path. During my time, though, I had been trained by so many internists in the area that I really had my eye on Linna Medical Group, the group I'm with now. There were 5 physicians at that time. One of them was my chief resident for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
that I had learned a tremendous amount from. So I joined Linna Medical Group when I finished my residency, and started a practice from scratch. There was nobody retiring, nobody to give me a practice, so I started fresh. And what that brought to me was a really young population.
Mm-hmm.
I was the doctor that all the kids graduating from their
Mm-hmm.
pediatric office came to. So I have spent 18 years watching them grow up,
Mm-hmm.
get married, build careers, have families, and it has been so fulfilling. The other part of my practice was people my age, and it was a joke that I would be having my stress test when they were having theirs, and that I would grow old with them, and
Mm-hmm.
until my mind was gone, I would take care of them. So my practice really has been long term. I love primary care. I love medicine. It was the right fit for me, and it still is. I'm not as fulfilled in 2020, but I think all of us probably have a few words to say about that.
I'm an internal medicine primary care physician as well. And some would say that we're the last of a dying breed, right? So tell the audience, what keeps you going in primary care today?
I love my patients. I love my partners. I love my patients. I love my office. There is nowhere else I want to be. It is a dying breed, but if you're good at it and you've learned the art of medicine and providing medicine to patient care, it is the place to be. It's unfortunate that we're teaching residents right now in our office and they're not seeing all the fun stuff. They're
Mm,
not seeing all the acute care, the stuff that makes us feel like doctors. They're seeing diabetes, they're doing hypertension, just not seeing the fun stuff. And not that illness is fun,
mhm,
but it is.
mhm.
I like to take care of acutely ill patients, and we're missing that. I think that, yeah, we are a dying breed. And how do we teach when we can't have sick in our offices?
Mhm. So let's transition now into the Kevin MD article that you wrote. It was back in January and it was titled, Why Do I Laugh During a Pandemic? Now, for those who didn't read that article, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it?
I wrote it after a Monday morning walking into the office and having COVID calls before the phones came on,
Mm,
because we have triage nurses. And I just started laughing. I go, oh my God, like it's gonna be such a hard day. Just like every day, it's just be hard. And I questioned a little bit, why am I laughing? This is really
mhm,
bad. The
mhm,
pandemic's bad. This is hard. It's hard on us. It's hard on our staff. It's hard on nurses. It's hard on everybody. It's hard on our community. And I was inspired to write about how resilient we have to be during this, and how we have to laugh, because if we didn't laugh we'd cry. And it's so cliche to say, but it's true. And I wanted to say what I had to say. I wanted somebody to read it. I wanted to, even if I got to one person, that I changed their attitude about COVID, or their attitude about medicine and healthcare right now, then I did what I set out to do.
So we're talking in the middle to the end of February. We're about a year into the pandemic, and it is so difficult for everybody, of course, patients, but clinicians, support staff. What are some of the ways that you are doing to help you get through some of these difficult times?
I write,
Hmm.
which is cathartic and very helpful for the mental health. I'm not burnt out. I want to do more. I feel helpless being out here as opposed to being in the hospitals during, a surge, and the physicians and healthcare, everybody in the hospitals being so overwhelmed. You kind of feel obsolete out here, that
Mm,
we try to keep people healthy out here and try not to burden them. But the hospital is where it is right now, and the hospital is overburdened. The physicians, nurses, they're all overworked, they're tired. And whatever we can do out here, to help ease what they're going through, I think is really important. I do think primary care is still really important,
hmm.
to try to keep down the spread, to try to keep patients out of the offices that are sick. And we do our part.
What kind of advice do you have for primary care physicians across the country? Like I said, we've been approaching a year. Sometimes you find nuggets of humor during the day. Now, what kind of advice can you give to other clinicians on how to find their nuggets of humor during this difficult time?
Wow, that's tough, because I think we've all been isolated for 11 months,
Yeah.
and I've been to work and home. So, we all have to find our ways I have definitely been, what's it called, nesting. I've changed my lifestyle tremendously when it comes to food. I I buy groceries every week. I Instacart, but I enjoy being home. And I don't think I could have said that 6 months ago. I think I would have said, this is grueling. I don't want to be isolated anymore.
Hmm.
But you find your way. You have to find your way. You have to find something at home while you're isolated that makes you feel good, that makes you feel good about yourself, that gives you that time to relax and say, I I got through today
Hmm.
and tomorrow's a new day. And things are getting better and things will continue to get better if we do what we're supposed to do.
We're talking to Kelly Lisciandro. She is an internal medicine physician, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, Why Do I Laugh During a Pandemic? Kelly, one of the things that impressed me during your story was the relationship and the passion that you have, of course, for patients. Now, as we approach 1 year into the pandemic, how has this difficult year, how has that changed you as a physician?
I am not as fulfilled as
Mm,
I have been for 17 years. My 18th year was a hard year, and I'm not fulfilled, but I'm not burnt out. I want more.
mm,
And I don't know where I go. I don't know where I go with that, with the idea. I'm 53 years old and I want to do more. I want a voice. I don't want to feel helpless in any fight ever again. I want to be there for my patients. I want to continue to provide great care to them. I want them safe. I love seeing their faces when I'm on telemedicine. I say, thank goodness that you look okay, that you're okay. But I don't know if this is, I don't know where I go.
mhm.
I don't know where I go from here. I'm very passionate about public health, and I didn't really realize that until this year.
Now, is there anything that you would do differently going forward because of past years' experience?
Well, yes, I want to keep telemedicine to a minimum.
Hmm.
I feel like it creates so much more work for us as physicians, and there's not that much satisfaction for patients and for physicians. One visit in the office can be one visit, one and done. We saw the patient, we know the patient, we know what's going on. Telemedicine has changed that. It's 2, 3, 4 visits or phone calls. It's just not satisfying. It's too much work. I think for a lot of things in primary care, it doesn't work. It doesn't work well. So I do know that I will not be a telemedicine practitioner. I can do it for some things, like all my psych follow-ups are all telemedicine. I don't
Hmm.
bring them in, and that's appropriate. But I do know that moving forward, I want to see my patients. I want to see them in the office. I want to take care of them. I want to provide patient satisfaction
Hmm.
because I think it has suffered this year, and physician satisfaction too.
So, a lot of primary care physicians are doing telemedicine, and I do some telemedicine myself. So, just give my audience a sense of what's missing in a virtual visit.
There is everything about a face-to-face communication, that nonverbal language. You can read a patient. We're taught to observe.
Hmm.
When you're on a telephone or a video, you don't observe like we do in person. So that's number one. Number two, I feel like I have missed things
Mm,
on telemedicine. And then when I bring the patient in and say, okay, enough, you've got to come in.
mm,
I've ordered an MRI of the brain on a patient. I never got there. I think that it's so hard, first of all, to do all the triage. We're doing medicine reconciliation. We're doing all their complaints, and then to get to the heart of why you're on that visit. I don't feel like we get there effectively enough.
mhm.
I think that it's so effective in the office. It's very, very different, and it's not. I don't like it. I don't provide good medicine. I do the best I can
Mhm.
with what we have.
And my final question, what's your take-home message that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
I want people to be optimistic right now, that we are trending down throughout the country. My area is doing great. I think we're down to like 2.3%. So continue to mask. Don't gather, distance. Let's do what we have to do and just stop the spread. Get vaccinated. Whatever we can do to stop this and get to some sort of normalcy again. not only in the healthcare field, but for all of us in our lives.
Kelly, thank you so much for sharing a picture of primary care during the pandemic. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks, Kevin.